BeckenridgePreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, our daily look at an area football team and the key questions we're going to be answering about that team on our Saturday, August 14th, preseason football preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm with my partner via Zoom, Dan Youngblood, and tonight, Dan, is one of the most storied programs in the entire Big Country, the Breckenridge Buckaroos.
Yeah, and the Bucks are coming off a really tough 1-7 season last year in Coach Casey Pierce's first season as their head coach. But I think there are reasons for optimism. They've got 19 Lettermen back this year, including 5 offensive and 8 defensive starters. So a little bit of talent and experience back from that bunch. And I think it's going to be also important that this is now year 2 in that system. So they've got a little bit better understanding of what Coach Pierce is wanting to accomplish. They kind of understand each other a little better about the expectations both ways. And hopefully we'll see a little bit more success. I definitely think this team will be better equipped to compete this year than they were last year.
Yeah, well, they have 30. They're projected to have 32 players on the sidelines, which I mean that's pretty solid. 8 returning starters defensively. I'm sure that Casey Pierce will like that. There is one problem. They're still young. And there's just not going to be a lot of juniors or seniors out there that have played. And playing in a tough league, that's going to be a challenge to overcome. But they should definitely take a step forward from last year and challenge for a playoff spot this year. Do I see them as an over 500 football team? Probably not, but they should challenge for a playoff spot, maybe a 4 seed.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's maybe a little bit of encouraging as well is that they've got a group coming up from a 4-3 JV team. So kids that were able to post a winning record at the sub-varsity level, that competed at their level. Hopefully they'll be able to bolster the returners a little bit and provide some support. But I think it's just important that the guys that they do have back, while still young, a lot of juniors in that group. There are very few seniors on this team. Did get some experience last year. They got valuable experience. And honestly, on the defensive side of the football, they had some games where they really competed. Yeah, it was just on offense where they really struggled to move and score the football. But I think with some improvement on that side of the football, this team could get competitive in a hurry just based on what they showed last year on the defensive side of the football. Obviously, it's still going to be tough to beat the better teams on your schedule that are returning big groups of seniors and those sorts of things, just because they're still going to have more experience and be a little bit more physically probably developed than you will. But I think that this team will be much better equipped, both physically, mentally, and from an experience standpoint to stay in those games and to really gain more valuable experience this year.
All right, let's take a quick look at the Breckenridge schedule for 2021. The non-district portion is going to be a challenge. They do have a couple of teams in there that I would classify as in rebuilding mode. Ballinger and Eastland are in there, but then there's 3 monsters in Jacksboro, Cisco, and Holiday. 2 of those 3 games are on the road. So going into district play, Breck is going to be prepared physically. The question is, how healthy will they be going into district? That's going to be a big key.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the key. When you play that type of non-district schedule where you're playing 5 teams that not only expect to go to the playoffs, but basically do and make deep runs in a lot of years, that's a tough challenge for a team that's still young and that's still relatively new in its system.
All right, I've got my game of the year picked for Breckenridge. There's a game there that I'm looking at that I think is probably going to be an absolute must-win. How do you see it?
I think the TLCA game at the end is obviously, if you're going to make the playoffs, they've got to win that one. But I think that before that, I think there are 2 games right off the bat that are big games for them, even though they're going to be games where they will probably be underdogs. That's that district opener versus Clyde. I think that's going to be a really big one because Clyde's got a new coach and has a younger squad as well. And then you follow that up with Early right off the bat. I think you've got to win one of those 2 if you're going to make the playoffs.
All right, the way I see it, Dan, I think the October 15th ball game on the road at Early will be the game of the year for Breck. I'm assuming that they will be underdogs against Clyde in the district opener. I'm assuming that they will take care of business against TLCA in the finale, and that makes that early game very important. Now, if they do happen to beat Clyde in the district opener, man, they're in great shape at that point. That opens up all kinds of possibilities for the Buckaroos if they can win that Clyde game. If not, the early game sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I think that early game will be a big one. I think on paper it appears at this time, I think, to be probably for that 4th playoff spot. But I think the Clyde game could be a little more wide open than we expect, just because they've got a new coach, a new system, and are replacing some fairly important players. But I think the big thing for Breckenridge that I'm interested to see is just how they are able to survive that non-district schedule. If they can, stay healthy is the biggest thing, and then just keep their confidence, because there are going to be some losses accrued during that non-district schedule just because of the quality of it. If they can compete, learn from each of those experiences, and go into district, still with that confidence and still healthy, I think it's going to be a big deal. And then you've got those 2 big district games right off the bat. So it's going to be an interesting season for Breckenridge. And I think their schedule plays out in a way that should be fun to follow.
Finding a way to get points on the board and move the chains is going to be the big challenge for Breckenridge this year. They have a year under their belt under the system of Casey Pierce, so I would expect them to improve in that regard. If they get points on the board, they played well defensively last year overall. If they can move the chains, we could see Breckenridge maybe surprise some people.
Yeah, and I think that's the big key. They've got to prove that they can move and score the football. If they can do those 2 things, I think they'll play defense. I think they showed last year that they're going to compete, which is important with a new coach. This team is going to compete. They've just got to find a way to get into the end zone and to put pressure on the opposition with their offense, which they struggled to do last year. But that, to me, will be kind of one of the more fun things to watch, is just to see the development of this offense, because I think that is the key to any success they're going to have this year.
That's just about going to wrap things up for tonight's episode of the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, the Breckenridge Buckaroos. But we want to remind you that on Saturday, August 14th, we will release our Big Country Preps preseason football preview, where we'll be answering all the key questions about the Buckaroos and every other team in the Big Country. It's going to be the best, most thorough preseason preview for football in this area by any media source. Nobody's going to beat us.
In the meantime, we appreciate you watching this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Days series, and make sure you join us again tomorrow when we will be highlighting the Clyde Bulldogs here at BigCountryPreps.com.